Welcome to NABS and part 1 of the Confidence and Gravitas Masterclass. The aim of this video is to provide you with evidence-based tools and techniques to build and maintain confidence and gravitas in an authentic and ethical way. We will summarise insights from the fields of psychology, neuroscience and coaching, which can be applied personally and professionally at work. Part 2 is our group coaching session, where we will meet and continue to develop our understanding of these core topics and have the opportunity to share our own insights and learnings together. This masterclass aims to be informative and interactive, so please download your workbook before you start so you can take notes and complete the exercises during the video. To get the best out of this learning experience, be mindful to minimise distractions as much as you can and ensure your environment is suitable for focused attention, as this is a key ingredient to retain learning. The content in this masterclass is to introduce the concepts of confidence and gravitas, with tools and practices that you can use at work. We will be including materials and discussions that may trigger emotions. Please be mindful and take care of your emotions during this video and also in part 2 of the group coaching session. You may choose to stop the video at any point, and if thoughts and feelings persist, please consider reaching out to the NABS advice line by phoning on 0800 707 6607 or email via support@nabs.org.uk. We will be taking scheduled breaks during this video and encourage you to pause if you feel like taking a break at any time to take in the learning at your pace. By taking regular breaks, we absorb information and retain knowledge more effectively for longer over-spaced sittings. Along with taking breaks, we will ask you to pause to complete exercises in your workbook and then continue to play the video.
Let's begin with some worldly wisdom from Michelle Obama, who believes your success will be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. Now, it's true to say the ability to cultivate and nurture success relies on confidence, and this masterclass will equip you with the necessary resources and skills to achieve this. With this in mind, our agenda for today's masterclass is as follows. We will define and understand what confidence is and work together to build and develop your own outcome from this session. We'll explore research-based models, practical tools and techniques to develop confidence using the impact and mental contrasting models. We'll also explore the definition of gravitas and apply the gravitas equation framework for your masterclass outcome. We'll also consider the effects of common barriers to confidence and gravitas, offering a variety of helpful strategies and top tips to establish and maintain confidence in an authentic manner. We'll also take reflective moments during the session to reflect on the exercises from the lens of a neuroscience and psychology perspective. Then we'll conclude with a review of part 1 of this masterclass with key learnings and takeaways. To ensure you get the most from this masterclass, let's spend some time exploring your learning journey. In general, any training you take has an overall goal to widen your knowledge and develop your skills, and this is our aim for this masterclass. It's great to see you're investing your time and energy in your personal development by watching this video and attending part 2 of this masterclass at a later date. To enable maximum benefit, we will be supporting your learning journey by taking reflective moments to discuss your individual goals in relation to building your confidence and gravitas, and also share the neuroscience on how our brains work and focus on the practical application of how we learn and develop skills. As we start our learning journey, it's a good idea to orient ourselves towards an outcome or goal for the masterclass. Carol Dweck, leading researcher on the science of motivation, reveals, by having a goal in place, it provides us with an intrinsic value, something we can measure at the end to assess achievement. For this reason, we will start with the outcome in mind and shortly take time to think about our specific goal for this masterclass, as this enables us to embrace the need to commit to learning. Dweck also highlights that motivation is deepened from a learning orientation as there is an intrinsic value when we learn insights, widen our knowledge, or master a new skill. Throughout this masterclass, we will provide tools and resources to build confidence and gravitas, with time to practice your new skills and actions. There will be time to repeat and reflect on your new skills, as this is the cornerstone to creating habit, which is a good predictor as to whether you'll achieve the goal you have set, the outcome you are looking for, and most importantly, that it's sustainable for the long term. With this in mind, let's take a moment and think about your own outcome for this masterclass. Please take notes in section 1 of your workbook. Do you have an upcoming meeting, pitch, conversation, or one you're likely to have in the near future? Who is this with? Where is this taking place? We'll be coming back to this outcome later in detail, as the more well-formed and clear the outcome is, the greater the likelihood of its success. For now, let's start with some definitions. What do we mean when we say confidence? Well, the word stems from the Latin word fidere, which means to trust. And the Oxford Dictionary states it's a belief in the abilities or good qualities of someone or something, and a belief in our own ability to do things and be successful. So having confidence in yourself, self-confidence, is having the beliefs, actions, and habits to trust what you say and do. We would all like confidence at work and in life at large. Yet, as much as it's something many of us endeavour to get, there's also lots of misconceptions and myths surrounding confidence. And if believed, you can feel that confidence is out of your reach or just not for you. And that's simply not true. So let's explore some of these myths. Firstly, are you born with it? Absolutely not. Confidence is a skill developed over time as you put yourself in new situations and/or new environments. Just like a physical muscle needs to be used to build strength, the same is with confidence. You need to practice by confronting challenging situations, pushing boundaries, and doing things you thought you could never do. Next, you have to be successful to be confident. No again. In fact, this works the other way around. You have to be confident before you reach success. Confidence is something you have to tap into and find at the beginning of your journey towards success. Even if all you can tap into is a small amount of confidence, that's okay. As you move closer towards your goals, that inner confidence will naturally grow stronger and stronger. You have to be an extrovert to be confident. Not true. The key to confidence is being comfortable in your own skin, satisfied with your achievements, and carrying yourself in your most authentic manner. Confident people have no insecurities. Not at all. Insecurities are a part of everyday life. Whenever we're faced with the unknown, it's human nature to feel a little insecure. Just because you might have self-doubt or feel unsure when you're changing jobs or moving to a new city, it doesn't mean you're not confident. The key is to keep moving forward anyway. You have to take big risks to be confident. Once again, not true. What's important is whether you're pushing the barriers of your own comfort zone and doing things that are new for you. In fact, the best way to grow confidence is to start with small changes and challenges, as once success is achieved, it propels you to stretch further and try something new. Ultimately, confidence is a conscious choice and learned skill. And as you're watching this video, there's a high probability you are open and willing to learn how we can build confidence. The best way to learn theory is through application, and we'll be returning to your masterclass outcome to apply new principles and strategies as we continue with this video. With this in mind, let's take a moment and think about your own outcome for this masterclass. Please take notes in section 1 of your workbook. Do you have an upcoming meeting, pitch, conversation, or one you're likely to have in the near future? Who is this with? Where is this taking place? We'll be coming back to this outcome later in detail, as the more well-formed and clear the outcome is, the greater the likelihood of its success. Now you have started to create a template for your masterclass outcome. Let's introduce the impact model, developed by organisational psychologist Rebecca Newton, to ensure clarity for individuals as they prepare for presentations and meetings, be it for a few members or speaking to a large audience. The aim is to shift the focus from what we are going to say to the impact we want to have. IMPACT is an acronym for insight, motivation, perception, advocate, content, and technique. Let's delve into each part of the model. Firstly, insight. The questions to ask yourself is, what do I believe about the topic, the situation, the pitch, the project, etc.? And then what insight do I want the people I'm to meet to think, feel, and act as a result of this encounter? Sometimes we can focus so much on content, overlooking what impact we want on others. Secondly, motivation. We've already identified who they are and what they do. Now it's time to consider what's driving them. What's the reason why they are there? Thirdly, perception. What is your audience's perception of the topic you're discussing? These first three factors of insight, motivation, and perception puts us in good stead to move forward to final factors of decisions to take. Ask yourself, what are you advocating? Think, if nothing else comes from the meeting, what do you want your audience to remember? Define your takeaways and key messages from the outset, as this line of thought crystallizes a guide to how you structure your content and make it memorable. By this stage of the model, you'll be in a good position to concentrate on content, as you are clear with the message you want to convey. In terms of content, you will know best what to include. But a point to note is people pay most attention to you at the beginning and end of meetings. We all do this. We ask ourselves, do I want to invest time in listening, or do we let our minds wander thinking about what we'll be doing after the meeting? Think about those first impressions and allow time to start and finish your meetings with time. As it's true what they say, it's not just what we say, it's how we say it. This leads to the final factor of technique. How we communicate is key, both verbally and non-verbally. Professor Albert Mehrabian studied elements of communication and found that our feelings, attitudes, and beliefs about what someone says comes from three elements: our spoken words, our voice, and our body language. Pay attention to your words, your content. Are they in congruence with the audience? Your voice is your tone, speed, and volume. Are these in sync for the circumstance? And finally, your non-verbal communication is key, as that's what matters is alignment. We are all unique with individual personalities, and we must express ourselves in a manner that is comfortable and authentic to us, with the overall aim to get your message across. In a moment, please pause the video and take some time and complete the impact model in section 1 of your workbook for your specific masterclass outcome in as much detail as possible. Welcome back with your completed impact model. By going through the process, you can go confidently to your meeting as you've thoroughly researched your outcome of what you're going to say and how you want to say it. We're now going to introduce Professor Ian Robertson's cycle of confidence. He explains how confidence works and what takes place when we project into the future and expect a success. There's an increase in dopamine activity that's known as the motivation and reward molecule. This in turn lifts and improves our mood and lowers anxiety that enables us to perform better and increase our likelihood of success. That in turn leads us to feel more confident. The process of expecting success in the future is positive and energizing, but it is still a projection of what can be. For this to become a reality, it needs to be connected to concrete planning, actions, and practicalities that you've already started with the masterclass outcome and impact model exercises. Another way to make sure you're confident with your outcome is to plan your actions in detail by chunking down step by step from the future, imagining you've achieved your goal. New York University professor Gabriel Utegan has researched the impact of future thought and outcome achievement and has developed a process called mental contrasting, whereby you start with your ideal outcome in the future, then come back to your current reality and mentally contrast where you want to be and where you are. Embrace your current reality and recognize there are steps and actions that need to be done. This creates the need to act. If we consider this as a bridge to our future ideal outcome, then confidence is the fuel for building and crossing that bridge. With your masterclass outcome in mind, let's consider mental contrasting. You've already established what is your ideal outcome and why this is important. Now consider any obstacles or challenges reaching this outcome, and if so, what's the plan of action? This process has proven to increase the likelihood of outcome achievement, so please take as much time as you like, and once completed this exercise in section 1 of your workbook, come back and we'll continue with the masterclass. Welcome back with your completed outcome part 1 exercise. As mentioned earlier, we'll be taking reflective moments during the session to elaborate and reflect on the exercises from the lens of a neuroscience perspective. Professor Andrew Huberman details in his lectures and podcasts how our brain and its connections affects our perceptions, behaviours and health. He explains there are a set of common mechanisms that are present while setting goals. So what is this? Well, it turns out to be a set of neural circuits that's a collection of areas in the brain, when activated in a particular sequence, gives rise to a particular behaviour. It doesn't matter what the goal is, the same common set of circuits are activated. Let's now delve into what these circuits are. Firstly, the amygdala is activated. That's part of the limbic system where our emotions sit, and it's best known as part of the brain that drives our fight, flight or freeze response and is strongly linked to the emotion of fear. What's interesting, many times when we think of goals, we can focus our attention to the avoidance of the worst case scenario. Secondly, the basal ganglia is activated. That drives us to initiate or prevent an action. An example could be to be healthier at work. A go-to action is to exercise during your lunch break, while not to snack in between breaks is an example to prevent an action. Thirdly, we have the cortex, the outer shell of the brain with 2 areas involved with goal-directing behaviour. One is the lateral prefrontal cortex that covers executive functions, for example, what is the upcoming pitch or meeting about, who is it with, and also timescales and location of when and where is the goal and outcome taking place. Lastly, we have the orbitofrontal cortex that involves meshing emotions with our current starting point in our goal pursuit and the state of progress, and comparing this with the emotions of when we are closer to our goal. An example of this in action was during the outcome exercise when we prompted you to think about questions relating to what your ideal outcome is and why this is important to you. What's fascinating, it doesn't matter what your goal is, whether it is to ensure your pitch goes well, to build rapport with your colleagues at work, or even personal goals such as running a 5K, to learning a new hobby, or simply to decide what film or TV show to watch next. The same neural circuits are involved. Let's now delve into the nuts and bolts of gravitas and consider what we can do to ensure we have a successful outcome. Gravitas has its roots from the Latin word gravis, meaning serious, with the Cambridge Dictionary stating gravitas as seriousness and importance of manner causing feelings of respect and trust in others. The term has evolved over time, with Isaac Newton even adopting the term to describe his third law of motion, with the law of gravity adding a weightiness to the definition. Interestingly though, his theory describes opposing forces. For every push there is an equal pull, which is an important consideration to cultivate and develop gravitas. Voice coach and expert Caroline Goyder encapsulates this term with an analogy of a tree. Gravitas offers you a solid foundation to express yourself with confidence and authority, planting roots of who you are and also the base to develop other branches of qualities such as inspiration, humility, humour and wit. The key is to strike the right balance. Voice coach and gravitas expert Caroline Goyder has developed an equation that we can all apply to our professional lives. This comprises of having knowledge, plus purpose, plus passion, minus anxiety, that equals gravitas. Now this equation is rooted with philosopher Aristotle's pillars of persuasion of logos, ethos and pathos. So let's review each element of the equation for building gravitas. Firstly, knowledge, logos. You have something to pitch, propose, present, and this needs to be logical, well constructed and reasoned. Here it's all about objectivity, presenting facts and figures. The second is purpose, ethos. That relates to your values and character. The idea of the pitch you're conveying is authentically you, thereby providing momentum and enabling gravitas to shine through. Finally, passion, pathos. Using passion and emotion to persuade, the spark that brings your idea to a light. What emotions are you conveying? Is it happiness, strength, certainty, potential, awe, inspiration, interest? How are you making your audience feel when you pitch your idea? In terms of the final element in the gravitas equation of reducing anxiety, we'll be covering methods in our top tips later in the masterclass. It's now your turn to explore the gravitas equation. Considering your masterclass outcome, review your plan of action with the gravitas equation in mind in section 2 of your workbook. Have you covered the 3 elements of the equation of knowledge, passion and purpose? Are there any gaps or areas that could be added or adjusted? Take the time with this exercise, as research suggests focusing on these concepts will facilitate a greater likelihood of success with your outcome. Once completed, come back and we'll move on to the next section of top tips and barriers considering confidence and gravitas. Let's now take a deep dive on top tips and barriers when cultivating and nurturing confidence and gravitas. Spend some time to apply the strategies, as these simple techniques are a great protector for coping with sabotage to our self-confidence. The first tip is to regularly carry out a relationship audit with both professional and personal relationships in relation to your confidence. The first question to ask yourself is, am I mixing with people enhancing my confidence? And then secondly, think about the people you interact with who perhaps subtly undermine your confidence. Now, we're not suggesting to directly confront the person, for example, a work colleague or a boss, a friend, or even a family member. But we encourage you to raise your awareness of such relationships and not to internalize it. Seek out and surround yourself with supportive relationships, taking time to actively network with colleagues at work who enhance your confidence. The second strategy to cultivate and nurture your confidence is to explore and confirm your values. By affirming what you stand for, by writing it down or verbally articulating it, brings it to the forefront of your mind. Here are some examples of values. Maybe some of these resonate with you. The key is the values you write down are relevant to you and you're proud of. Think about what's important and the reason you believe in this value. Take note of as many that come to mind and aim for at least 3 values. We've included a table of further values in your workbook for reference. This activity allows a self-evaluation, a get-to-know yourself opportunity for what you stand for. Research suggests that by heightening your awareness of your values provides a buffer in your brain to respond differently to threats to your self-worth and confidence. This activity changes your memory and attention systems and makes you more robust to withstanding a snipey boss or undercutting colleague. Knowing your values is a strong driver of motivation for working confidently, as it shapes your behaviors, actions, and capabilities. Finally, take notice of your posture, body language, and breathing. Sometimes when we feel unsure in ourselves or situations, our bodies can be closed off, even bending our bodies forward or sideways, and as a result, we reduce the ease and depth of oxygen in our bodies, which is critical for our brains to function optimally. Meanwhile, when we feel safe, included, and sure of ourselves, our posture and body language is more open, and in turn, we feel more confident. It's important to remember that body language, posture, and breathing are interconnected and interdependent. Additionally, posture is a key nonverbal communication cue, enhancing rapport with both professional and personal relationships. We discuss this in more detail in our Rapport and Influence Masterclass. If you're interested in attending, please do get in touch with us at NABS. In a moment, please pause the video and take some time and complete the relationship audit and values exercise in section 2 of your workbook. Once completed, come back and we'll continue with the masterclass. We have talked about strategies to help build and protect confidence. However, one of the most common struggles to experiencing the benefits is anxiety that causes stress both mentally and physically, resulting in us questioning our self-belief and leaving us feeling nervous, fearful, and even paralyzed. These situations can take many forms and will vary from person to person. For many, it will be public speaking, which research consistently shows people fear more than even death. For others, it may be pictures, meetings, difficult conversations, or interview scenarios. In a world where many interactions take place online, it may even be that communicating digitally affects us more than in-person encounters. Let's take a reflective moment to consider the effects of anxiety from a neuroscience perspective. Confidence enables us to work productively, increase problem solving and innovation, feel more engaged and energized. However, when we experience anxiety either episodically or chronically, our mind and body feels we are encountering a potential risk or threat. And as a result, our amygdala, part of our limbic system, is aroused. And if the perception is danger, we activate the fight, flight, or freeze response through our sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the chain of events that are designed to protect us from danger. Hormones cortisol and adrenaline are activated, resulting in raised blood pressure, increased heart rate and breathing, with our pupils dilated and muscles stimulated. At work, as a result of anxiety, this can prevent us to speak up, ask questions, seek feedback, or highlight a challenge we're facing for the fear of the potential risk of appearing incompetent or ignorant. The result is we often tend to avoid and stay silent than speak up, and miss out as individuals and teams on potential gains. Thinking what's happening in our brain at such moments helps us to understand we need to prioritize effective coping mechanisms to reduce the effects of anxiety and minimize the risk of being in a situation that is perceived threatening by the brain as much as we can. A great tool we can use to reduce the effects of anxiety is our breath, and particularly deep breathing. Let's take a moment now and practice together. Try to sit or stand in an expansive and relaxed manner, with your legs folded or unfolded, with your arms relaxed by your side. In a moment, we will guide you through some deep breaths, breathing in to a count of 4 and breathing out to a count of 6. You are welcome to close your eyes or perhaps focus your eyes on an object with a soft gaze. Let's begin. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. When you're ready, we invite you back to the here and now, and you can open your eyes. As a feedback check-in right now, how are you feeling? A little calmer perhaps? What we've just experienced in the last minute is using our breath to change our brain and in turn our body too. What do we mean by that? Well, the breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 6 activates a tiny part of the brain called the locus coeruleus and is the only source neurotransmitter chemical messenger of noradrenaline, the chemical heightened in our brain that plays an important role in your body's fight, flight, or freeze response. In summary, when you're stressed, anxious, or worried, you're pumping too much of this chemical in your brain. Equally, when you're tired, fatigued, or exhausted, you're not producing enough. The locus coeruleus fires out noradrenaline millisecond by millisecond, depending on how much carbon dioxide we have in our blood and what controls our levels, our breath. as we've just experienced by slowing our breath with inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 6, we've altered our carbon dioxide levels and controlled our noradrenaline. So we have at our fingertips a mechanism to calm our brains down and function more smoothly and effectively. A point to note, there is a sweet spot in terms of noradrenaline, as this graph illustrates, with arousal on the x-axis and performance on the y. With too little noradrenaline, we fall in the boredom category, and with too much, the effects of stress, anxiety and panic that undoubtedly affects our confidence sets in. A great tip is we can use our breath to change our brain function and build our confidence too. In a moment, let's press pause on the video and take a break. You've been presented with a great deal of information, and it's a good idea to let this all absorb before we move to the final stretch of the recap and key takeaways. Take as long as you want, grab some water, rehydrate, perhaps look outside to some nature or even upwards to the sky. See you when you come back. Welcome back with your completed exercises of the gravitas equation and self-efficacy audit. Let's take a final reflective moment to consider the exercise undertaken from the psychology of goal setting and the neuroscience lens. As you completed the exercises, your brain was determining the goal and assessing the value of the new tools and skills presented in this video, broadly asking, is the goal worth pursuing? Secondly, the brain is deciphering what action or inaction to take based on the value placed on the goal. It's important to ensure our goals are specific and there's a concrete plan with action steps that gets down to detail to assess what does success look like in the outcome. One chemical that is released when we are curious and when we are placing value on undertaking steps in goal pursuit is dopamine. Professor Huberman describes dopamine as the currency by which we pursue goals and the molecule of motivation, as it activates your reward systems and is essential to move forward towards pursuing your goals, your outcome. By adding the layer of understanding the underlying neuroscience on top of the psychology of goal setting allows us to set and pursue our goals more effectively. As we're coming to the end of part 1 of the masterclass, let's recap what we've covered in this video. We defined what confidence is, and you developed an outcome for this masterclass. We also explored the impact of mental contrasting models. We then explored what is gravitas and worked through the equation with a refresh on Aristotle's 3 pillars of persuasion. We explored barriers and top tips on how to build confidence and in turn gravitas from a mind-body perspective and from the lens of a neuroscience and psychology perspective. Finally, we took reflective moments to review key learnings to confidence and gravitas, and shortly we will conclude with your personal takeaways from part 1. As we started this session with a worldly quote, let's conclude with some wisdom, this time from the Dalai Lama. With realization of one's own potential and self-confidence in one's ability, one can build a better world. Aspirational and motivational indeed.
Congratulations, you've completed part 1 of this masterclass. We look forward to meeting with you in person or virtually for the second part, which will consist of a group coaching session where we'll get to delve deeper in this topic and your specific outcomes. Please do complete all the exercises in time for part 2. This will enable a more enriching and insightful experience for you to get the most out of the insights presented here. It's worth noting, in the words of journalist and author Malcolm Gladwell, that practice isn't the thing you do when you're good, it's the thing that you do that makes you good. Note down your key learnings and takeaways in your workbook. Think about what will you start to practice from today based on this video. Did you have any aha moments? Jot them down and we can share and discuss together. Any questions, suggestions or recommendations from part 1 of this masterclass, please keep a note in your workbook for part 2. See you soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon for part 2 of this masterclass, Confidence and Gravitas.